The Spector, Part 6. The Puppeteer, the Stones, and the Ancient Text. The car, now quiet. Did you guys hear what I heard? Adam said. What the fuck was that? Johnny said. What did she mean when she said, it doesn't like you searching? Then what did she say after? Stop! I shouted. They all looked back, except Jen, who only did briefly, then put her attention back on the road. If that, I stuttered, if that thing's got my sister, we need to figure out what this says, and quickly, Johnny spoke up. It'll be okay, buddy, Johnny said. Leave my sister alone, you fucking rat. Leave her alone, I said quietly to myself. Jen reached her hand back and placed it onto my knee. I know it's hard, she said, but we have to hold it together, for all of our sake. She took her hand off my knee and turned left down Brown Street, then made a left into the library parking lot, pulling up and parking by the door. We exited the car and gathered our belongings. We made our way into the library, not wasting any time, and went to the librarian. Do you have any books on Latin? Jen asked the librarian. Latin? She said back. Yeah, Latin. We're working on a school project, I chimed in. Oh, well, if we have anything, it'll be in the back right corner of the library, where the ancient language books are, she said back. Thank you, I said as we all scurried in that direction. The library wasn't empty, but it wasn't busy either. When we got to the section, we searched high and low until we found a book titled The History of the Latin Language. We grabbed that one and made our way over to the computer desk. Jim pulled out the notes that Shane had written and that she had stuffed into her pockets, setting the wrinkled pieces of paper onto the table. She handed Adam the book. He opened it and quietly said, Guys. We stopped and looked as he pulled out the checkout log. He pointed at the log. I guess we're on the right track, he said as he pointed the last name that checked out the book. Shane Stone. Out. 9/30/1996. In. 10/15/1996. We looked at each other, then Adam slipped the checkout log back into the book and began turning pages. She began unfolding the notes that Shane had made and placed them in a small pile to the left of the keyboard. As she did this, a small shard of paper fell out. She picked it up. Dr. Lyle? Jen said. Mark, does this have any meaning to you? She asked. No, I said. I have no idea who that is. Well, there's a phone number on here, too. Maybe it'll come in handy. Maybe it's some type of clue or something. She set down the note and logged into the computer, using her own login. Come here often? Johnny asked. I used to, before I had my own, she added. What, your own library? Johnny said sarcastically. No, idiot, my own computer, she responded. I cracked a grin, and Jen opened up Yahoo. She unfolded the first note and read it off. The Book of the Damned, she said, reading off the note. See, I knew that's what it was, she said confidently. This book is not for amusement. Continuing to read is strongly discouraged. Proceed at your own will, she read out quietly. Are you sure we should be doing this? Adam said. I mean, that seems... Adam, be quiet. She picked up the next sheet. James Dodson. Paul Passer. Margaret Lapis, Meredith Maxis. Jen read off. Meredith Maxis, I said quietly. That's my grandmother. Well, before she became Meredith Stone, that's her maiden name, I said. So what, is this like the checkout card? Johnny said. Maybe, Jen added. She set that down and picked up the third note. This is the one that Shane didn't finish, she said. She stood up with the note and said, Johnny, will you type this in? Adam, will you follow along? Maybe there's some information in the book if we can't find it online. Johnny slid over into the seat where Jen once sat and said, "Ready when you are." Jen began reading slowly. "The Spector," Johnny typed. "Pescuritor vivios et damnos perquitur," she said, stumbling. Johnny continued to type, though. "Nodist est spector, aurora universi, et non deficit dank defuncta, sit opida, vel maldicido, levator." Hey kids, we all jumped. It was the librarian. "We just received word that 4 more bodies were found, and Sheriff Locke has issued a mandatory curfew. We're going to be shutting down for the remainder of the day. You'll have to come back tomorrow." "But miss," "No buts. Finish up here, and then I need you to clear out." She then walked away. "Johnny, did you get that? I wasn't finished reading everything," Jen said. "Yeah, hold on. The damn thing is taking forever." When the page finally loaded, it said, "The Spector feeds on the living and pursues the damned. The Watcher is the dawn of the universe and will not fail until the cities are dead or the curse is lifted." "Johnny, that doesn't make any sense. Are you sure you typed it incorrectly?" Jen said. "I'm sure. I mean, maybe I spelled something wrong, but you tried typing a language you don't understand." "All right, kids, time's up," the librarian said sternly. Johnny wrote down the translation onto the sheet. We packed up and started to head out. While packing up, I saw Adam slip the book into his bag. He looked at me and whispered, "Just in case." We made our way into the parking lot. "Well, that was a bust," Johnny said. "Not entirely," Adam said as he unzipped his bag, now displaying the book that he effectively stole. "I figured we'd need it," he proclaimed. "What do we do now?" I said. "What does that mean? Pursues the damned. Who's the damned?" I noted. "Hey, what about that doctor? Dr. Lyle," Johnny said. Jen reached into the bag and dug out the note. "Anyone got 50 cents? I said. Adam dug into his pocket and handed me a couple quarters. I made my way to the payphone. As I did this, I saw the librarian exit the building, locking the door behind her. I slipped a quarter into the payphone that was positioned out front, hearing it rattle on its way down, clanking when it hit the change catcher. I looked down at the note and began punching in the numbers. I clicked the last number, and the phone started ringing. Ring, ring. Ring, ring. "Hello, you have reached the machine of Dr. Lyle of the Berkeley History Department. I'm not available now. Please." I hung up the phone. I put the other quarter in and typed the number in again, punching it in on the keypad. Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Ring, ring. "Hello, you have reached the office of..." I hung up again. I walked back over to the group who was now standing outside the car. "Well, no answer," I said. "It's some professor at Berkeley," I followed up. "Berkeley?" Jen said. "That's not far from here. Maybe we can drive over and meet up with them." "Yeah, but maybe they're not there. Let's just try again tomorrow," Adam said. "What do we want to do, Mark?" Johnny said. I paused. Well, suddenly, the phone started ringing. We all looked over at it. "Maybe that's her calling back," Jen said. She jogged over to the phone and picked it up. She held it to her ear and then slowly lowered it. "Hey, Mark," she said. It's for you." I walked over and took the phone from Jen. "Hello?" I said. "Mark," a voice said. A familiar voice. A voice I haven't heard in a long time. "Shane?" I replied, shocked. Jen, Johnny, and Adam all looked up. Mark, listen to me. Don't try to fight it. It will hurt you. It'll hurt the family. I love you. Don't. His voice cut away and another voice came across. If you keep going forward, I'll torment your little soul and drive you mad. You hear me, bitch boy? I'll fucking kill you. Your family, your silly friends. I'll make you watch as I slowly drain the blood out of your friends. You hear me, you little fucking... I slammed the phone on the hook, tears streaming down my face. The group ran over and asked, Mark, what happened? I was hyperventilating. My heart was beating 1,000,000 times a second. My head was starting to sweat. My body shook. It knows. It knows we're trying to find it, I said, gasping for air. What do you mean it knows, Mark? Adam said. What do you mean, what do I mean? That fucking thing's got my brother in... Jen grabbed me. This is what it wants. Fight it, Mark. I looked at Jen, looked deep into her large brown eyes. My breathing slowed and my heart slowed down. It's got Shane, Jen. It's got him. I started to weep and she hugged me tightly. It's okay, Marky. You're still here. You're safe. She let go. So what are we going to do now? Johnny said. They all looked at me. I looked up and looked around, then looked back down. Berkeley? I said. Tomorrow. Let's go to Berkeley. Okay. We'll get together after school and... Adam said. No. No, I said. Let's go tonight. We can't go tonight, dude. There's a curfew, and if we're caught outside curfew, we'll be in deep shit, Johnny said. What if we all blow off school tomorrow and go first thing in the morning, Jen said. I can do that, Johnny added. No stranger to blowing off school. Are you guys in? Jen said, looking at Adam and I. Yes, I muttered. I guess, Adam said. Okay, Jen said. I'll meet you all at school tomorrow. And what about me? Johnny added. Johnny, can you walk to Hyde Park tomorrow? What, with that fucking thing lurking around? He said. Okay, well, where should we pick you up? Jen asked. My house. I'll just fake sick or something. Okay, Jen said. Everyone meet at school. We'll ditch before homeroom, and we'll pick Johnny up. Then we'll go to Berkeley. Plan? Jen said. We all nodded our heads. We got in the car, Jen started it, and the radio clicked on. End of passion's play, crumbling away. I'm your source of self-destruction. Veins that pump with fear, sucking darkest clear, leading on your death's construction. Jen dropped off Johnny, and then dropped off Adam. Then we made our way back to our street. When we got to my house, I looked at her and said, Thank you, Jen. She leaned over the center console and hugged me, kissing my cheek before breaking the hug. Be careful, Mark. I looked at her and nodded my head. I walked into the house and it was quiet. I guess my parents were gone and I guess so was Holly. I walked into my room, flipped the lights on, and tossed the book onto my bed. I looked down, kicked my shoes off, and when I looked up, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was him, standing there, holding my brother. I collapsed to the floor, scooting myself away. Hey, bro, my brother's corpse said, this thing holding on to him like a puppet. Oh my God, I shouted. Nope, not God, just your old pal Shane. Here to remind you that if you fuck with this guy, he'll rip your soul out and torment you for eternity. It's not all bad, though. We like it here. My eyes were wide. My heart pounded, and I felt tears rolling down my face. Leave my brother alone, you fucking bastard, I shouted at this thing, standing tall over him. The creature grinned, its teeth stained red and yellow. The lights in the room began to flicker. My tapes and books started falling off the shelves. The book on my bed now started flipping back and forth. You didn't listen to me, boy, and now you're going to fucking pay for it. It hissed, my room still in turmoil, and my radio turned on. Obey your master. Master. Master of puppets, I'm pulling your strings, twisting your mind and smashing your dreams. Blinded by me, you can't see a thing. Just call my name, 'cause I'll hear you scream. Master, master. Suddenly, it vanished. My papers that were once flying around started falling to the floor. My room was a mess, and my radio switched off. I stood up, trembling in fear. I looked over, and on my bed, the book was still open. I walked over to the book, picked it up, and it was cold to the touch. I held the book up, looking at what page it was on. I saw it was on one of the ones that Shane had already translated, that we had gone over earlier in the library. I read the page. James Dodson, Paul Passer, Margaret Lapis, Meredith Maxis. I could hardly read it as my hands were still shaking. I set the book down and there was something new. Something that wasn't there before. I felt a chill run down my spine. My eyes widened as I saw 2 new names next to my grandmother's. I don't know if they were there earlier or what, but how could we miss this if they were? I read down the list again. James Dodson, Paul Passer, Margaret Lapis, Meredith Maxis, Shane Stone, and lastly, Marcus Stone.